everybody, Cecile Ahrens here. Welcome to Transformation Tuesday. Today I just want to talk about sadness versus depression, because this is some of the stuff that's been coming up with a lot of the people that I'm supporting, and I thought it would be great kind of useful information for everybody to have some tools to distinguish whether you're just sad and what normal sadness is versus clinical depression. So, sorry for the background noise. Working from home, we're all kind of impacted in one way or another. So for me, that's probably one of the most challenging things, is being able to focus and concentrate while I have a child who's not very happy out there, but he's not alone. We do have somebody helping us take care of him, so that's great. So sadness versus depression. Sadness is an emotion, okay? And it's totally normal and actually very healthy for us to feel sadness at the appropriate times in our lives. And, unexpressed sadness can often lead to depression. But sadness is a common, universal human experience. It's a healthy emotion. And, we've all felt it at some point of our lives, probably even right now, right? Because of what's going on. Depression is very different from sadness, even though sadness could be one of the main or dominant emotions when you're depressed. So depression is really characterized by the level of impairment that it is creating in your life. So we can be sad, but still be functional, right? We can be sad and still, fulfill our obligations. We can be sad and still experience other feelings and still feel generally happy and positive about our lives. Depression is more like this dark cloud in which everything gets filtered through this cloud, and it can be really hard to not even snap out of it, because it's not something you can just snap out of. It can be really hard to not believe this filter, this cloud. The way people explain it, it's like, I know that I'm not being rational. I know I'm not supposed to be thinking these things, or I really have no good reason to feel this way because my life is great. I just do. So that's a telltale sign, right? Clinically, what we look at is, there's like symptoms that you have to meet, but I don't want to just talk about it like in clinical terms. That's if you're in my office, we can do that. But, the point of this is to make the information more relatable or easily understood. So what you want to look at is, how is it impacting your functioning? Are you having a lot of hopelessness? Okay, this is a hallmark symptom of depression. Hopelessness. Not just sadness, but when you think about your future, it feels hopeless. Are you feeling helpless and powerless and overwhelmed with life, right? How is your mood most of the day? Is it mostly sad and depressed, or mostly depressed, right? Or is it mostly sad? Sorry. How is your appetite? So sometimes with depression, you could have a decrease in appetite or increase in appetite. How's your sleep? So again, you can have increased sleep or decreased sleep. How's your concentration? A lot of times when you're depressed, it's very hard to concentrate or focus and get things done. Your productivity level is, not as high as it would be if you weren't depressed. How's your energy level? That's another thing. Are you feeling fatigued most of the time? So a lot of times people with depression talk about feeling tired, fatigued, unmotivated. It's hard to focus. I just feel off. I just feel run down. I just feel blah. So there's that physical manifestation of it, and then the psychological manifestation is, just thinking that, this limiting beliefs, basically. Limiting beliefs, false beliefs, negative beliefs, all around that same quality. And that emotionally, it's the hopelessness, the depressed mood most of the time, more days than not. So those are the hallmark features. And of course, a more obvious one is what we would call a depressive episode, and that's if you're, a kind of a concrete example of that is if, you ended up in a psychiatric hospital because of danger to self, right? Or you were feeling suicidal, which, by the way, if you are, it is really important that you reach out. There is no shame in depression. Like a friend of mine I was a guest at his podcast, Asher Gosvin, there's no shame in depression. There's no shame in any mental health issues or diagnoses or illness, whatever you want to call it. It's not your fault. If you have clinical depression, it's usually, there's a biological component to it. It's not your fault. And, it's not something you're necessarily doing or not doing that is causing the depression. But we do have power and choice how we manage it and how we take care of ourselves. So the depression is not your fault, but how you take care of yourself and how you manage it is your responsibility. And I'm not going to say here that there's a magic pill, but there are combination of treatments that will really, that can help, bump your baseline up to a place where you feel like the symptoms are more manageable. So depending on how depressed you are, if we're talking about clinical depression here, is if it's really, really severe, there's usually a combination of things that we can do to help boost your mood up to a level where you feel better than where you were, okay, generally speaking. And, there's no cure per se for true clinical depression because it is a chronic condition. And again, it's not your fault. It just is the nature of it. But there are things that you can do to manage the symptoms so it feels like something you can live with. So this is where support groups are really helpful because you get to hear about other people's stories and how they've coped. And, support is really important for us as humans, but especially when we're depressed, because it's very isolating when you're feeling this way. And there sometimes is a lot of a sense of, shame about having these symptoms. So hopefully that's helpful. Sadness, on the other hand, situational sadness is the term I like to use. It's, like I said, that's the difference, is you can usually recover when you're sad and bounce back and, get over whatever it is you were sad about. It's not something that's just kind of continuing to perpetuate and keep you stuck. And whereas depression, like I said, it feels like this constant thing in the background. There's like a negative cloud following you around, even when you're doing other things to kind of boost your mood. And so usually that's an indication that professional help, it's time to get professional help. It's time to be open to other forms of treatment, including medication, and again, there's no shame in any of that. And if you are currently in treatment and you are on medication, having a talk with your doctor about reevaluating that if you're not seeing the results that you want. And then even in more severe cases, we sometimes have to take it to the next level, like electroconvulsive therapy, or there's now all sorts of kind of, new things that are being developed treatment-wise for depression that I'm not going to get into here. But the message I really want to convey here is being able to help you guys differentiate sadness, healthy sadness, appropriate sadness versus clinical depression. And you could get support for either one of them. You don't have to have clinical depression, by the way, to get support and get therapy. It's all legit. It's all okay reasons, appropriate reasons to get help. But if you are in the category of clinical depression, you are not alone. You are not alone. I say that a lot. It's not your fault. It really isn't. There is no shame in it. And, seek professional support. Therapy, consider medication, support groups. There's a lot of virtual support groups going on even before this pandemic. So there's a lot of resources out there. And, like I always say, you don't have to know all the steps. You don't have to know what treatment is going to look like. Just take the next step. The first step, if you've never sought any help, or the next step, the next best thing. That's all you need to know. And there's billions of people with clinical depression. And I'm sure there are millions. I'm thinking there are billions with clinical depression. So, you know, we still have choice and power, even though there's crap or things we don't like that have been bestowed upon us. So that's it. Hopefully this was helpful and hopeful. And again, you're not alone. It's not your fault. If you have any questions, you know, you could DM me or message me. Of course, that's not a substitute for therapy, but I can, you know, lead you kind of in the right direction or give you resources as needed. If you're in California and you are considering therapy, please consider us, transcendtherapyca.com, transcendtherapyca.com. We have a lot of experience in this area and a wonderful team of therapists. Visit us at transcendtherapyca.com. You can learn more about all of them and more about like our approach to care and, you know, how we work with people. So that's it, you guys. Take care. And like we always say, get mental, be gentle, be well. We all have issues, okay? No shame in that.